Goodness me, we've got some huge breaking news from the world of Formula One, and it looks like Lewis Hamilton is going to be leaving Mercedes and joining Ferrari.
Now that the dust has settled, with probably one of the biggest driver market news in a while. It really got me wondering about the rumors about Lewis Hamilton inquiring about the Red Bull seat last year and whether we all, especially Team LH, owe Christian Horner an apology who quote-unquote started the rumor. So let's go through the timeline of the events as it played out, given we now know Lewis will be leaving Mercedes for Ferrari. So everything happened around the last race of the 2023 season in Abu Dhabi, just before the paddock goes off on their winter break. This is the Daily Mail article that came out on Wednesday, November 22, 2023, which was pretty conveniently planted a day before the drivers have to do their media day on the Thursday. So the article headline reads as follows. Lewis Hamilton held talks with Red Bull and Ferrari about joining before he inked new £50 million a year deal with Mercedes, and he was even open to joining forces with rival Max Verstappen. So it was Red Bull and Ferrari. The key thing here is whilst the media was focused on the Red Bull part because it seemed almost outrageous for Lewis to actually wanted to jump ship to Red Bull after all the bad blood between Mercedes and Red Bull during that 2021 season. No one even entertained the idea that a Ferrari move was properly in the mix. So let's read on. A representative of Lewis Hamilton contacted Red Bull about him partnering Max Verstappen at the World Championship winning team before he signed a £100 million deal to remain at Mercedes, and he also held talks with Ferrari. The explosive claims come in an exclusive interview with Red Bull team principal Christian Horner, blowing a hole in Hamilton's insistence that Mercedes was the only place where he wanted to see out his career. The revelations reinforce Mail Sports' story in May that Hamilton and Ferrari had dialogue about doing a deal, explicitly denied by the driver and the Scuderia's team principal Fred Vasseur at the time, but proven correct now. Now this is a direct quote from Christian Horner, and he says the following. We have had several conversations over the years about Lewis joining. They have reached out a few times. Most recently, earlier in the year, there was an inquiry about whether there would be any interest. He met John Elkann, Ferrari chairman, too. I think there were serious talks. It was around Monaco in May. There were definitely conversations, perhaps with Vasseur, too. But certainly with Elkann. But I can't see Max and Lewis working out together. The dynamic wouldn't be right. We are 100% happy with what we have. In the article, it was unclear who this representative was, whether it was someone from his management or was it his father Anthony Hamilton, but later on Christian Horner confirms it was Lewis's father in an interview with Sky Sports F1. So in hindsight everything sort of makes sense now. Christian Horner knew about all of this since the Monaco Grand Prix but decided to speak to the Daily Mail just before the last race of the season. Why? I would speculate it was to create some turbulence or drama in the Mercedes camp running into the winter break. I guess it was create some question marks over Lewis Hamilton's loyalty to Mercedes. Lewis would have to publicly vouch that he will be with Mercedes into the future when he was still in contact or even negotiating with Ferrari. Now I want to take you through the series of interviews that took place during the weekend to see what we can take away from it. Firstly, let's hear from Christian Horner. This is his Sky Sports F1 interview where he explained his side of the story.
Let's get into Hamilton Gate. Who texted who?
It's amazing the fuss that's come out of this. So look, it's not unusual for there to be an exchange. I've known Anthony Hamilton for 15, 16 years. So, inevitably there's often an exchange, during the course of a season. So, but there's quite a lot that seems to have been read into this.
So it was Anthony that texted you, was it that way around? Because Dr. Marco's just gone on to Sky Germany and said it was someone from Lewis's camp that made the approach. Was it that way around?
No, look, I had an exchange. Look, Anthony's a nice guy. He reached out, I think, I can't remember, it was regarding Sergio, and he just asked an inquiring, a suggestive question. Now, look, I don't know what role Anthony plays in Lewis's setup, or management, but he's got some form of a relationship. I don't think he was inquiring about himself to come and drive.
So Christian and Helmut Marko confirmed it was Anthony Hamilton. As far as I can tell, Anthony Hamilton has not come out and discredited Christian's allegations, so I guess we can assume that they were probably true. I agree with what Christian said. If you haven't won in 2 years at Merc and he really wants that 8 championship, he isn't getting any younger. Why wouldn't you inquire about the second seat at Red Bull? So let's hear what Lewis had to say about the rumors. This interview was with Ted Kravitz from Sky F1.
Can I get your comments on a story in the Daily Mail that a representative linked to you apparently approached Red Bull for a drive next year, or asked if one was available?
Yeah, I don't really know where that story's come from. I know it's come from Christian. So I don't really understand what he's been talking about because no one, as far as I'm aware from my team, has spoken to him. I haven't spoken to Christian in years. However, he did reach out to me earlier in the year about meeting up. But that's it. I just congratulated him on an amazing year and said I hope I'm hopefully soon I'll be able to fight against you guys in the near future. That was it. So I'm not really sure. I think it's just stirring things.
Well, given that, yeah, what are we to make of why he's discussing what potentially would have been confidential discussions in an interview in the Daily Mail?
Well, there aren't any confidential discussions, so
Yeah.
I don't know. You know, Christian.
I
You
do.
know, he loves that kind of stuff.
And to be clear, you would welcome the opportunity to go up against Max Verstappen in an equal car.
100% would be more than happy to race against him in an equal car. For me, moving to Red Bull has done an amazing job, and it is an incredible team. And any driver would love to drive for such a great group of people. I think moving from a car that's not so great to a winning car, from my perspective, that's not a dream. The dream is always to start where we kind of are and build up to them winning. And that's why I've stayed with Mercedes.
Let's hear that last part again.
And that's why I've stayed with Mercedes.
So that's why I will stay with Mercedes. Interesting to hear him say no one in my team spoke to Red Bull. Technically speaking, Anthony Hamilton is not his agent or part of his management team, so he is probably factually correct. However, using his father would be the perfect way to check if the seat is available at Red Bull and always claim no one from his team actually spoke to Red Bull directly. A perfect alibi. Now here is his interview with Will Buxton with F1 TV.
Some comments out of Christian Horner this week that apparently you approached him earlier this year with an eye to moving at Red Bull. Any truth in those comments?
I have not approached Christian. I haven't spoken to Christian for years. And no one from my team has, I've checked with everyone. No one from my team has reached out to him. However, he had reached out to me earlier in the year about meeting up at the end of the season. And I was like, hope you're well, wish you all the best, and congratulations on an amazing season so far, and I hope that I'm able to compete with you in the near future. And so, yeah.
I honestly never really thought much about these interviews at the time. I'm no body language expert, but is it me or does something feel off when he gave these interviews? Let me know in the comments below what you think. After the Will Buxton interview, the F1 pundits all discussed what they think is actually going on. Now ex-Formula 1 driver Jolyon Palmer made some really good points about Lewis looking around given Mercedes have not delivered him a championship-winning car for 2 years straight. Due to copyright, I cannot show the video or audio of the next clip, so I'll read out his transcript for you. Link to the video will be in the description below. Jolyon said the following, and I quote, "Why wouldn't you speak to Red Bull if you're Lewis though? I know he's won all the championships with Mercedes, but they Red Bull are up the road, they have the best car by a mile, they probably will next year have the best car. I know Lewis is obviously putting his eggs in Mercedes' basket now. Surely you'd sound them out. I'm not saying he's lying, I'm sure he's not. If you're any driver that's out of contract at the end of this year, which Lewis was, surely everyone's knocking on the door and having the conversation. How good would it have been if we're looking at next year, if Red Bull have the best car, it's Max against Lewis? It would have been iconic. Hopefully they will be there in the Mercedes and Red Bull, it'd be like 2021 again. But I just think with these things, a conversation doesn't mean all that much. But it just means drivers they should be knocking on the door of the best team and saying is there a chance? Obviously, Lewis is happy to just stick with Mercedes where he's won. And there's loyalty there and trust there. But he's not won a race for 2 years. I'm surprised if they wouldn't have tried to have a conversation. Though Jolyon wasn't racing in F1 for very long, he still has the mindset of how drivers think. As a 7-time world champion, why wouldn't you speak to the rival team who has the dominant car? As a driver you should do that, that's if you want to continue winning championships. Reading between the lines, I think Jolyon was very carefully saying he was not buying Lewis Hamilton's story. So let's tie it all back to my video title. Was Christian Horner right about Lewis Hamilton wanting to drive for Red Bull? I mean, given how things panned out with Lewis leaving Mercedes for Ferrari, he would have surely checked in with Red Bull as they have nailed the ground effect regulations and will probably win 2024 and a high chance that they are in the mix for 2025 as well. So my personal belief is that I think Christian Horner was most likely telling the truth based on how the chips have fallen, but I would like to know what you think. Let me know in the comments below and don't forget to like and subscribe.